every single one of our major customers and minor customers all shut their doors overnight.
You need the right people in the right place at the right time. And sometimes you have the right people in the right place, but at the wrong time.
I've got to keep going forward. I've got to keep looking for revenue streams. I've got to keep looking for growth, keep looking at new ways of doing things.
But, what's the culture like at the business? What do we stand for, the values?
I've got to tick that box on my personal development program I don't really want to be here.
Scaling up a business isn't easy. If it were, we wouldn't have less than 4% of businesses scaling beyond 10 employees or around £1 million turnover level, and less than 1% beyond 50 employees. But the contribution that we make as owner-managers to our economies is immense and should never be underestimated. Yet it can be a tough gig for all of us at times, and only other business owners truly understand the challenges that we face. And through ScaleUp Radio, we aim to help make things a little easier. We interview guests who have been where you are now and may have faced some of the challenges that you are facing. And they offer their thoughts and advice on what has worked for them, as well as what didn't. And we've also combined many of the lessons from these interviews and also through working with hundreds of owner managers over the last 10 years or so into a practical scale-up handbook that we've called the Entrepreneurial Scale-Up System, or ESUS. And it's for owner managers like you and me as we navigate our own scale-up journey. And you can order a copy through your favorite online book retailer or by going to all the W's, esusgroup.co.uk, www.esusgroup.co.uk. On this week's episode of ScaleUp Radio, I talk with Nigel Dunand of Sandler. And Sandler is a global organisation that deals in sales training and sales leadership. And Nigel is a franchisee that works out of the Heart of England office, which is based in Birmingham in the UK. Nigel's been with Sandler for 16 years now, after being a client of Sandler and seeing the power of what they offered, so much so that he bought into the company. And don't worry, this conversation isn't just a big campaign for Sandler. We cover loads of stuff, and if sales is something that you're interested in, improving sales, then this is going to be a great episode for you to listen to. But we also talk about why you should have an exit strategy in place much earlier than you may originally have thought, why mindset in your business can mark the difference between growth and stagnation, success and mediocrity, and about regularly re-evaluating who your ideal client is. And it will most likely evolve as your business evolves. And as you'll hear, Nigel is a big personality. He's a great talker. He's a great presenter, actually, as well, to have at events and things. And we have a real practical discussion about sales and growth of your business. Make sure that you've got something to take notes with during this conversation, because I think there's going to be lots that you're going to want to jot down. Welcome to another episode of ScaleUp Radio. I'm here with Nigel Dunand of Sandler. So Nigel, welcome to ScaleUp Radio.
Thanks for inviting me.
It's a pleasure to have you on. So Sandler, some people might know what Sandler is and what you're all about, but what are you all about? What's Sandler about?
Well, Sandler is a sales methodology, sales leadership methodology. It's a global organization. My humble part of this global operation is the Heart of England office, based out of Birmingham, Longbridge, as you know.
Okay.
So we work with typically successful businesses. These are all people with great product, great service, often great people as well. But then they might be frustrated about being able to grow their business. They might have frustrations around getting into the right types of new prospective customers that they need to in order to grow the business. Or sometimes they can get into them, but they then spend forever trying to close them. Or maybe they do close them, but it's not at the margin they'd hoped for. Or maybe they've mastered all of that and now they're trying to scale up and hire other people to do that, and then they really come a cropper. So anyway, that's it. Sales leadership stuff.
Brilliant. Okay. And I believe it's a global organization, isn't it? Essentially, Sandler.
Correct.
Yeah. So particularly interested in your story, we know each other a little bit of old, so I know that you've got a very long and extensive background before you even thought about Sandler. But before we get into that and into sales as one of the major challenges of business owners, tell us about where you are with Sandler and your own scale-up journey with Sandler.
Yeah, so that's good. Yeah, so here's where I am. I am regretting not having figured out earlier on the best time to figure out your exit plan for your business is when you set it up. So I've had it at the back of my mind, but it's now at the forefront of my mind. So I've got this wonderful little app on my phone, retirement app. And I can give you the exact thing probably. It just says retirement on it. Retirement countdown. And, yeah, for the listeners at home who won't be able to see this, but you can see I've got a nice little countdown calendar here, and it's telling me I've got 5 years, 7 months, 19 days, 0 hours, 31 minutes, and 42 seconds before retirement.
Right, so you're retiring at about quarter to four. That's it. Now, so that's the most specific part of my retirement plan. But what happens in between? I am now piecing together. Right. Okay, great. Yeah. So we got 5 years. Yeah, we got to plan that out. Yeah. So and how long have you been running Sandler?
Well, I've been doing this now for 16 years. So, and when I first set out, of course, I was a client of Sandler for many years. So, I drank the Kool-Aid when I was a client. I realized that they have some stuff which is seriously life-changing, not for everyone, but for a lot of people. And they had a lot of the tools that I needed as a sales leader to be able to hire the right people, get them working effectively, build a proper process, make sure they action it, make sure they fine-tune it. Took a lot of the stress out of the job for me and made me a lot more time efficient. So as a client, I loved it.
Yep.
So I thought, when as I was casting around for something else to do, when you have your little, when at that moment we've all had when we think, do I really want to be doing this for the rest of my life? As much as I loved it, and I loved the company I worked for, I particularly loved the fact that they introduced me to Sandler. But as I was casting around for something else to do as a sort of second act for my career, I investigated what Sandler was about and what it. And then I found out I could actually set up my own Sandler training business, and found out what was involved in that. And I guess my purpose for doing it was I just felt a strong sense of mission to save people from the purgatory of sales. I mean, a lot of us love our job, but we hate the sales side of it.
Yeah.
And the Sandler process really helps restore dignity to the whole sales process. So I thought, I've got to save all these technical sales guys, sales managers, sales leaders from all the running around and all the stress. And so my mission was to at least invite them to come and check out Sandler, see whether it would work for them. So I was purely focused on that. After a while, I thought, let me use some of this stuff and I'll hire someone to help me do the training and help me do the selling. And of course, now I'm focused on not just getting those people in place so they can do that, but also what's the automation. I built some pretty good processes into the business. And with the help of some admin people, I've been able to crank the handle on that. Now, really, I'm looking at streamlining it and automating it, so it becomes a much easier business for me to hand over for whoever wants to buy the business in the future.
Okay.
And I have got a couple of possibilities there. I've had 2-3 conversations with people, and I'm still in conversation with 2 of them. So I'm doing everything now that would help position the business for a sale, which ironically is what I help a lot of my clients with. But cobblers and shoes and all that, I've now got to drink my own medicine
Excellent. So what's changed then so when you set it up 16 years ago, how different is Sandler now in terms of Heart of England and your business of it from when you bought into the franchise back then?
Well, the business is, essentially what we do remains unchanged.
Yes, I'm thinking about your particular, because you've now built your own business essentially.
Yes.
So where are you compared with where you were then?
Well, I've gone from someone who was just very focused on cash flow and the P&L and what's coming in, to someone that is just far more focused on looking at the business from the outside and looking at what we're doing and asking myself, firstly, does it need to be done? Why are we doing this? Secondly, am I the right person to do it, or can someone else do it? Or if someone else is already doing it, are they the right person to do it? Can it be automated? Can it be systematized? What can we do to fine tune this process? And so I'm more focused on systems and processes and making sure we got the right people to do it, rather than when I first started, it was everything fell on my shoulders.
Yep.
So I'm refocused. Every now and again, I like to reevaluate who's my target market, what shape of customer base do I want for the business,
okay,
and how what can I do there to make sure that we onboard them in effective and efficient fashion. We give them tremendous. What can we do to improve the account management so they will tell us that they're giving us tremendous service rather than us hoping we are. Mm-hmm. And just growing organically from the ecosystem of clients, having a proactive approach for introductions and referrals, and so it becomes a sort of virtuous circle.
And you've got a team of people working with you.
I have a team of people, and my team has really changed. So this has changed through partly, I would like to say I planned it all, but it was
with hindsight you planned it all.
With hindsight I planned it, yeah. Circumstance. So I had the heart of my business for many years had been two people that were office administrator roles. One person just made sure everything that everything was all in order for my customers, and the other person made sure that I was well organized and my diary was well managed, etc. I put a lot into automating all of that. Both of them gave me good warning of their impending retirement. And rather than investing in the training of other people to do this, I thought, let me see how much I can automate. So I'm left now with someone who runs my training. Some of the training we outsource, but some of it we do it in-house, depending on what's best for the customer.
Yeah.
And then, of course, I have a business development person who is in charge of prospecting and uncovering new business opportunities.
Okay.
And all the processes that used to be watched over by what I'll loosely call admin, we have automated. And a lot of work has gone into, and we're not fully there yet, but a lot of work has gone into, hey, what's the journey an ideal prospect should go on? And let's really define all the steps, and the more they're defined, the easier it is for us to automate it.
So you've neatly chunked the business up into those three areas that we often talk about with our clients. Any org structure, any business has to do, as well as the leadership aspect of it. But we've got to bring it, as in we've got to bring the new business in. We've got to deliver it. We've got to do it. And we've got to count it in all the admin sort of bits. So you've neatly got that. You've got a BD person, you've got a training person to do some of the ops with you, and you've got admin to help support with that. But then you've automated to make all of that as automated as possible.
Yes, and laying across all of this, of course, we have to have a good tracking system. So without the tracking system, it's difficult to know what to fine tune, or if we do fine tune something, difficult to know whether it made any improvements. So a not too onerous tracking system that gives us just enough data for us to be able to make decisions.
Good. And can you give us an idea of the kind of types of clients? You just mentioned you're sort of redefining your ideal client a little bit, your target clients, but what sort of businesses do you work with?
Well, when I first started out, I was very much looking for business owners that were like me, entrepreneurial people that were starting up or had recently started up. Mm-hmm. I felt I could relate to them, so that worked out quite well. Now, because I came from a corporate world, I've always had a few corporate clients, but that wasn't my focus initially, and for a couple of reasons. And having worked in the corporate world, I know that the decision-making process involves a lot more people and can take a lot longer, and you just need to invest a lot more time up front before anything happens. And as a small business owner, that can be risky.
Yep. Because
you're not quite sure whether it's going to pan out or not. So much safer was smaller businesses where, the person you were meeting with across the desk, they were the decision maker and the influencer, and they hold the purse strings, and they could cut you a check. Bam. So yep. It was as long as you had a good, honest conversation with someone, it was a pretty quick decision making process. What shifted since then is sort of by accident. A lot of my clients that I considered smaller corporate clients had relationships with companies, or they have offices around the globe. So as we moved into lockdown, they're all saying, hey, well, Nigel, instead of you, because I used to refer these guys to other trainers in the past, other Sandler people in the Sandler network. Yes. They would just say, hey, Nigel, can't you just, time zone permitting, can't you and your training support team, can you, we want you to want to come to you. And then because of my background, so that was one thing that drove me to have larger customers with multiple offices. And the other thing is, and it just so happens, because I've got this background in transatlantic sales, selling in Mexico, in Canada, in the USA, as well as Europe, I'm now focusing a lot more on what I call transatlantic companies. Yeah. So these are companies that have the added challenge of maybe they all think they've got great systems and processes for sales, but they will, after a couple of beers, admit that they don't. It's all on a bit of a wing and a prayer. Mm-hmm. And most importantly, one of the challenges they have are what they might call cultural challenges. So each division or each geographical location does something different, especially when it comes to sales. And so pulling that all together to have a unifying sales culture, it's tremendously advantageous for them when they see that they are able to do this. Right. So that's been a big shift in my prospecting now. So I'm looking for larger companies. So companies that have a sales director, a couple of sales managers, inside sales, a team of inside salespeople, and a team of outside salespeople.
Great. And what makes you different? A combination of you maybe and with the Sandler approach. What makes you different from everybody else that's out there that says they can help with sales?
Well, okay. So if I can give you the Sandler corporate answer, and I can give you the actual answer. All right. So
yeah, we could do both, or we can go straight to whichever.
Right.
Yeah. Okay.
So the Sandler corporate answer would be. And you're right, there are a plethora of training organizations out there, very well known, and they're very good as well. I mean, I'm not saying anything. The difference here is that we have a process of ongoing reinforcement training. So it is a little and often. Right. It's a concept where it's an adult learning model. So it's sort of like, January 1st, you say, I really want to lose weight, right? I'll go to the gym. That's one way of fixing it. However, I really want to lose weight. I'm totally committed to doing it. I'm going to block out time in my diary on a regular basis. I'm going to get weighed and measured on a regular basis. Every now and again, I'll meet with a personal coach or nutritionist or what have you. And what's more, I'm going to give my wife or partner the excuse to kick me out of bed and make sure I go there. So it's because if we do that, we know we will get fit. Does that make sense? So similar thing with Sandler, it's a commitment to be the best version of yourself that you can be in your sales leadership role. And so that's the ongoing reinforcement, and everything we do is designed to be digested in bite sizes.
Okay.
The 2 or 3 day boot camps, all that sort of stuff. It's that's like going to the fat farm for a week. All bets are off. Did I call it a fat farm?
Yeah, I'm not sure if you can, but we'll see.
Health farm. You know what I mean? It's the health farm for a week versus something that's ongoing and sustainable. So my goal is or at Sandler, what we help people do is embed the appropriate systems and processes in place so it's ongoing. This process of fine-tuning, improving sales performance is ongoing. And at some point, they may decide to fire me, but they've got those systems and processes in place.
Yeah.
So
great. And I believe you also have an element of kind of group accountability, don't you? So there's that opportunity to...
Well, what we'll do is we'll say, get an accountability partner. If they don't have one, we can provide one. But the concept there is, Brilliant. So that's the Sandler corporate version. Ongoing reinforcement. They'll say that's what makes it different, right? Yeah. Now, here's what I hear a lot from my clients who have often been around the block a little bit. And I love these guys. So an educated customer, someone that has, typically they might have tried investing huge amounts of money on pay-per-click or branding or rebranding, hiring some highfalutin sales director, or training development, all this stuff. They spent lots of money on that, and it hasn't worked. So the reason why they tell me that they like what we do is because we have a little bit more. Our trainers have a little bit more credibility and authenticity.
Right.
So, for example, if we are training people up on prospecting, appointment getting, here's how you get an appointment, here's how you make sure that the appointment doesn't get cancelled, blah, blah, blah. If we're doing all of this, we're not just training out the manual. We can demonstrate it because we do it. Is that fair? Yes. So there's a lot of my clients, especially, they are already A players, super duper successful, some of them earning great money. So what we're able to give them, as well as obviously the fantastic material, is we can deliver it in a way that's credible because we've done it. So they might challenge us, for example, to, okay, Nigel, you think you're so good at this, you think that system's so good, go. They don't say it quite like this. Go ahead, Nigel, call this guy. And so I can then demonstrate to the classroom live the no pressure appointment getting prospecting call, for example.
Okay.
And and the beauty of it is whether or not it actually works in inverted commas, they can just tell from the very different conversation that I have that I do this and I'm authentic. Does that make sense?
Yes,
so
absolutely.
And the same thing with sales leadership. It's a real frustration for sales managers to get salespeople to actually do the stuff they want them to do, or stop doing the stuff they don't want them to do. So, you can train that out of a manual, but the authenticity you bring and credibility you bring when you have actually done that, and you can demonstrate it, and for example, I will actually get my sales directors, sales leaders to do stuff and report back, thus modeling the behavior that they should be doing to their sales guys. That gives it credibility. So those are the two reasons.
Excellent. Okay, good. So I'd like to get into, in a moment, I'd like to get into some of the challenges of sales. We know it's one of the key areas for owner managers, particularly running businesses, but even as we go up, as you said, into corporate businesses. Before we do that, I would just like to explore maybe one or two lessons that you've learned in the time that you've been running your Sandler business. Maybe some things that you've think, you know what, I nailed that. That's a key to my success. Or, you know what, if I were to do things differently, I wouldn't do that again. What jumps to mind? What lessons have you learned?
Well, you said it right there. I think that we learn lots of lessons every single day if we can just review what we've done. But how many of us actually jot those lessons down? So keeping a diary of lessons learned and then the actions you're going to take as a result of that habit, that's probably one of the best thing. I call it the Sandler 99p training program.
Okay.
All you need is a little spiral bound notebook and a pen. And I'm pretty sure you can steal the pen if it doesn't fit your 99p budget. You can pick that up at any networking meeting. And then if every single day you wrote that you just kept track of these lessons, that would be great. For example, if we're interacting with a prospect, they ask a question, we respond in a certain fashion, I can just make a note of that, like, here's what they asked, here's what I said, here's what I should have said.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Just by doing that, we can learn some tremendous lessons. Now combine that by being part of a mastermind group or a group of other like-minded people who are doing that.
Mm-hmm. And
now you can learn lessons off each other.
Excellent.
So you don't have to always learn by your own mistakes. And you start to spot a lot of patterns that are going on in here. And the biggest lesson that we learn my biggest lesson I've learned from having done this for a number of years is that the real problem is stuff inside our head. It's not a technical problem at all. It's we often think, if I'd have said this better, or if I'd have asked this question, it's the root cause is something going on in our head. For example, if we believe that the prospect that we're trying to call is a very important person and he's very senior and he's very busy and he won't want to talk to us, we've pretty much talked ourselves out of making the call already. Mm-hmm. We'll find any excuse other than picking up the phone. We'll email him, we'll send him a LinkedIn, blah, 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 which just reinforces our belief that he doesn't want to talk to us and he's very busy.
Yeah.
If instead we had the belief inside our head, and these beliefs, by the way, these self-limiting beliefs are difficult, I think, for us to spot in ourselves. This is where the benefit of a coach or an accountability partner or someone that you respect, who knows you, who can give you the tough news. There's a lot of benefit in this because they're more likely to spot this. So anyway, if instead we believe that, oh my gosh, people absolutely want to hear from me. Whatever you're selling, I have the cure for cancer. This guy might have cancer. If I don't call him, I've done them a tremendous disservice. Whatever happens, he's going to have a lovely conversation and he will thank me for calling him. So that belief is a far more helpful belief.
So that mindset combined with the constant keeping track of lessons learned and having accountability and sounding board type ideas.
Yeah, so I think the importance of mindset, it's very, very important. The technique's important. We've got to be able to say the right things, and in order to say the right thing, we need to practice it. So I would say mindset, technique, and then the other part I would this is the part that trips up most people, is what we call the behavioral part. This is the commitment to action. This is actually carving out the time in your diary to do the stuff that you might not necessarily like doing, or the stuff that takes a lot of energy to do, the stuff that rather put off till tomorrow. But putting the time in the diary to actually do it, approaching it with the right mindset, and a little bit of practice on terms of technique to make sure that you get the tonality right. And if it's a prospecting call, that it comes out right. But that can apply to anything, not just prospecting calls. That mindset, behavior, technique applies to everything.
Yeah, indeed.
And the lessons learned are just a huge part of that, because that hits all three.
Yeah.
You know, you can learn lessons about behavior, technique, and mindset.
And interesting, going back to the mindset thing, I mean, there may be one or two people listening and think, oh, that's a bit, that's just a bit woo-woo sort of thing, Yeah. But I remember when I first sort of really spotted this, going back to when I was in the pharmaceutical industry, and we were hiring medical representatives to talk to doctors, okay? And the best and the worst hires were nurses.
Because
of their mindset. They either came in going, doctors are gods, in which case they were rubbish.
Yes.
Or they came in with their knowledge and they felt they were kind of on a par, and then they were able to really do really well. So just that simple. They were both the same in terms of technical competence, all of those things, but it was just their mindset.
So that's that mindset, that particular mindset we refer to as equal business stature.
Yeah.
And if we lack equal business stature, it's a lot of hard work now to get over that. We can get there just by doing it, and then you get results, and then you start meeting with people, and the first person that says, "Boy, Nigel, thanks so much for calling. I really enjoyed the conversation." When they say that, write that down. Because that reinforces a healthy belief.
Good. So we've started to get into this already. So let's explore this a little bit further then.
By the way, just a little thing here, the comment there that you said, if for people that think this is too woo-woo, people that think about that's an example of an unhelpful mindset.
Yeah. Yes.
In itself.
Yes. You got me.
A meta example. Yeah. Right.
Yeah. All right. Good. So we started to get into sales and what we can start, how we can start to think about it. And as you said, all of these things actually transcend. They're not just about sales. All the things you said, they're about the way that we go about our business, all about having great attitudes, great mindset, great habits, all of these things. But we know that with scaling a business, this whole aspect of creating and delivering on a good set of qualified leads and converting those leads into sales is one of the most common challenges. It's the biggest challenge that we all face at certain points of scaling up. So if we're an owner manager of maybe a small business, maybe we're let's say we've been in business a few years. We might have a handful of employees. Maybe we're even up to that sort of 30 employee level, but with, somewhere between 3 and 30 employees. What are some of the key things that we can think about as to how to improve the way we go about our sales?
Okay. So,
or maybe the other way, what are some of the key challenges actually that you see within those businesses?
All right. Yeah. So I think that's a great point. So some of the key challenges there, I think, is that for the business owner, and at that size business, it'll be a business owner, and he'll be or she will be involved in sales. The challenge that I see there, and I don't know how to say this politely, but they've got blind spots.
Yeah.
Does that make? And so if they're year after year after year dealing with the same old issues and the same old challenges and trying all sorts of stuff, the chances are the real issue is a blind spot that they can't see.
So what are some of the blind spots then that you see?
Here's some. I'll give you my top 3, maybe 4 blind spots here.
Yeah. So
blind spot number 1 is they do not have a system or process for selling. They are winging it. Does that make sense? Now, the reason why it's a blind spot is they think they've got a process. But when you go to the next step and you say, okay, I see the process. Have you got it written down? Can you show it to me? If I ask Fred, the guy that sits in that cubicle right there, desk over from yours, if I asked him what was the sales process, would he tell me the same thing?
And what's wrong with winging it? Because I'm brilliant at winging it, Nigel. I can sell fridges to Eskimos. What's the problem?
Well, that's a great question. What do you think's wrong with winging it? The winging it is, but that's what stops the scaling. Does that make sense? Because if we're winging it, we can't really describe what it is we're doing. We certainly then and this is blind spot number 2, not always being in hiring mode. Hiring and blind spot number 3, prospecting. So hiring and prospecting, they're real blind spots. So I'll deal with the prospecting one first. If we don't have a written prospecting plan, clearly defined, with everyone knowing what parts they're going to play in it, prospecting, as soon as companies start to get busy, is the first thing they stop doing.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
So, but if I was to ask people, when is the best time to do prospecting? When you're busy or when you're slow? Most people intuitively know, actually, the best time to do prospecting is when I'm busy, because if I go prospecting when I'm slow, I look desperate.
Yeah.
So the question that I very rarely get asked, but it's one of the best questions that someone could ask me is, how do I build a prospecting plan that we can stick to and commit to and crank the handle on even when we're busy?
Yeah.
Because that is a key thing. And that's a blind spot that they don't have. They, as soon as they get busy, they stop prospecting. It's always the least favorite. They're looking for excuses not to prospect. They won't admit it to themselves, but they are.
Yeah. And even if you're, and you know, I used to see this again in various things. First of all, that peaks and troughs you've just described is typical. I mean, it's very common, and it's one of the key.
Small business.
Yeah. One of the key reasons why people don't scale beyond a certain point, because they just haven't got that consistent prospecting plan in place. But also it is interesting it comes back a little bit to the mindset again. And I've been in this. If I'm the one that's selling and delivering, and I'm really bloody busy, even though I might not consciously think I don't want to go out and get any more leads, it's still there. It's still in the back of your mind, and you think, oh well, maybe I've.
So one of the things we need to do is have a discipline where the first thing we block out in our diary each week is that prospecting.
Yeah.
No, and I don't care whether it's an hour or, I mean, when you first start off in business, it's 40 hours or 50 hours, 80 hours, whatever. That's what you do. You've got no customers, you're prospecting. It's easy, right?
Yeah.
And then we start to get a few customers in, and some psychological level, like you said, we go, oh, great, I don't need to do so much prospecting. Same thing happens with salespeople. Oh, great, I've got all these customers, I can go around visiting them. So we got to have a super solid prospecting plan, clearly defined how much time we're taking doing what. So, and we call that cookbook is the types of behaviors, and playbook is what we're doing. So cookbook defines what we're doing, whether it's LinkedIn, phone calls, networking, talking at conferences, sending out emails, white paper, whatever it is, prospecting activities. But you define how much time you're going to spend doing that each week, and you do it. And the playbook is how you actually do each of those activities. So when you do finally get the courage to pick up the phone or respond to an inquiry, what comes out of your mouth? And if we're not careful, if we haven't really given this some thought, what comes out of my mouth on Monday afternoon is very different from what comes out of my mouth on Friday morning when I'm looking forward to the weekend. Does that?
Yes.
My mood's different.
Yep.
I'm feeling different. I've got different stuff going on in my head. So if we want predictable results, we've got to have what we say has to be. I'm not saying it's a script, but we've got to have a talk track that's successful. Anyway, that's a blind spot, prospecting.
Brilliant.
The third one then is similar thing to that, and this is particularly for companies that have got to that 20 or 30 employee level. They may not have a great job, be doing a great job at prospecting, but at least they're doing it. They probably got, they do this trade show and this trade show and that. So it's a default prospecting diary, although maybe they haven't planned it. It's just happening. All right. Mm-hmm. But to get to the next level, their blind spot typically is hiring. They don't have, just as a salesperson needs a prospecting plan for new business, the leader needs a prospecting plan for talent. And they got to have their radar up the whole time. Because again, if we wait to start to look to hire someone at that moment when we need someone, we can be in trouble.
Like going shopping when you're hungry.
Yeah, that's how. Okay, that's exactly right. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So
exactly right.
If why do I need to hire though, Nigel? If I'm the owner manager of the business and I'm great at bringing in the big clients, why do I need to hire?
Well, so this goes back to your vision and the plan for your business. And if your plan for your business is that it's just you, that's fine. If you want to be able to sell your business, you're going to be in real trouble because unless you're in it, it's worth nothing to someone. So the whole and I think there's this is the evolution of the business owner here. You first, when you first get going, you just want to have some income. But after a while, you're thinking, oh, I've got to have enough income now so I can fill up my pension plan, so I can provide long-term planning. And then it's the penny starts to drop. If I can build a long-term ongoing revenue stream or create a fantastic legacy for my family by creating this business, then I need the right people. And I need to make sure that I'm not doing any of those, anything in the business. Yeah. I got a great lesson from a client of mine. I went to go and visit him, and about the second we worked together a little bit, and he wanted some more time off from his business, so we sorted him out having Fridays off, and then we sorted out him having a week a month off, and it was going great. And then anyway, 6 months later, I went back to his office to meet him. We'd been doing everything online, or he'd come to my place before then. And he apologized when I arrived. Oh, sorry, Nigel, we're going to have to meet in here. It was a meeting room. And I said, oh, really? Don't apologize. And he said, yeah, I don't have an office. And I said, what do you mean you don't have an office? I gave up my office, Nigel, because I just want to make sure I'm not here. And I thought, that's wonderful. That's what we call the behavioral trap. He is now delegating so much stuff that he does not even need a desk or an office.
Brilliant.
I think he has an in-tray.
Okay, good. So let's see in the last few minutes if we can. So I know a lot of people that we talk to, you say the word system.
Yes.
And it's like, that sounds like some sort of management speak, whatever, So how do I go about creating a sales system? Are there one or two simple things? I know it's different for everybody, but what do we need to think about if we're going to create a system or be able to create one?
A great starting place when I have these conversations with these business. Now I'm giving away a bit of my consulting magic here, but a great starting place is to look at the top 2 or 3 really good customers that you've got already on your books. And then if you can even remember, dissect that. How did we win this? What happened?
Right.
What were some of those key events that occurred? And just by looking at that historic data, that will tee you up quite nicely for what goes into a process. For example, I spoke to a big engineering client of mine. They sell kit that goes for millions. I mean, it is a long, complicated sales cycle, and really long when I first met them. Years and years. Anyway, turns out when I started asking these questions, is that 90% of the people that had come, that they got into their building for what they call the red carpet. They might have 2 or 3 people from a company looking at buying their equipment. They turn up. 90% of those people would buy.
Right.
So then I said, okay, well, what did you do in those meetings? I said, well, we just brainstormed with our engineering design people whether we might have some concepts that could save them some time and make a. And I said, and what was the outcome from that meeting? Well, the outcome from that meeting typically is they give us some money to do a proof of concept. I said, okay, great. After the proof of concept, I think in these cases, we then built a working prototype. Great. And after the working prototype, a sale. Okay, great. So now we're starting to break that down into the steps of their sales process.
Yeah.
Now, I then asked the question, how do you get them to come to the meeting? And now that was an interesting conversation. How did they get them there in the first place?
The red carpet.
So yeah, how do we get them to the red carpet in the first place? And what qualifies them for a red carpet? And what might be their reasons for wanting to come to a red carpet? That now we took all that information and turned that into a prospecting plan for the business development guy.
Brilliant.
And his job was to get red carpets. He was a new guy, didn't know all the ins and outs, but he had to go off and find people that were interested enough, serious enough, that they would come along mob-handed for a red carpet, on the understanding at the end of this red carpet, they'd be willing to spend a few £1,000s or whatever it was to go to the next step. And when they got that right, they immediately saved huge amounts of time. Does that make sense? Yep. They weren't wasting their time with off-profile prospects that were never going to spend any money or couldn't make a decision even to block some time in their diary to come over to their place. So it was a huge time saver for them. Brilliant. So the point about a system is that it enables you to save gobs amount of time, because you can replicate it, you can fine-tune it, you can get better and better at it. And when you hire, in this case, when you hire a new guy, you don't have to wait a year and a half before you can find out whether you can sell. You know in 1.5 months whether the guy's got what it takes to find some people that will come along to your office for a red carpet meeting. Brilliant. In this particular case. Yeah, no, now, really, I'm not saying that would work for everyone, but just illustratively.
Really nice example. And actually also, for a lot of us, that first thing that we need to do is to get them to experience what we do in some way or other. And then that red carpet event, great idea. It might be different in everybody else's businesses, but how do we get them to experience what we can do with them? Perfect. Good.
And interestingly enough, but I said 90% of the red carpets turn into sales. Not all their sales came from red carpets. They came from other stuff as well. But by focusing on that one thing initially, the red carpet, and building a system for that, and then it got very well orchestrated as to the people that were there, the stuff that would happen beforehand, the lunch that would get ordered, the whole environment. So we made that red carpet a really nice red carpet experience, right. And everyone knew their role in it. So it was done on purpose rather than by accident.
Fantastic. Thank you, Nigel. Really good. Some really good stuff there. So a couple of questions I'd like to do to wrap up with everybody. The first actually is, what works for you from a business development point of view? Where do you get most of your leads from?
Well, and I would suggest this isn't just me. Anyone that's been in business for a long time should never need to do a cold call, because we should know enough people that we're getting referrals and introductions when we ask for them. Or we should know enough people so that, if I want to get into a particular account, I can ask some contacts and say, know anyone over here? Okay. So that's when we're now reaping the benefits of having done all the right stuff up front.
Brilliant.
The right stuff up front is a proper methodical prospecting plan where we define, as I mentioned before, those behaviors in our cookbook. I think that one thing we absolutely cannot shy away from is we got to get very good on the phone. Yeah. Because most people will not meet with someone on the basis that they just click on your link. I mean, they may, and you may get a brief, but even if they do click on your link for a 10-minute call, we've then got to be good on the phone to turn that into a proper business meeting. Yeah. And not a 20-minute how do you do, but if we need an hour and a half or we need 2 hours with them, we've got to have the skill set on the phone to have that conversation to get them there. And it's that skill set that some people shy away from developing, or it's an unconscious competency for them and they just think anyone should do it, and they don't realize when they hire someone, this guy needs help.
Yeah. All right.
Excellent. So that's the number one thing. We call that the no pressure appointment getting call. And if anyone wants to know what that's about, if they email me, I can send them a video on it. I can send them a structure for it. Great. More than happy to share that.
Well, let's do that, because that was going to be my final question, which is, if anybody would like to get hold of you, what's the best way to do that?
All right. So, best way is to email me, Nigel Dunand at Sandler.com, and mention your name.
Brilliant. And we will put that in the show notes. But Nigel, it's been an absolute pleasure to have you on ScaleUp Radio.
Thanks for inviting me.
Thank you very much.
I don't believe it's been so long.
Yeah. Indeed. Well, maybe we'll do it again soon. Not need so long between. No, that's brilliant. Thank you very much, Nigel. Really good insights there on the sales side in particular. And I would normally ask, where do we want to be in 5 years' time? What would you count as success? So I think you gave that answer to us right at the very beginning of the show. And one of your favorite apps then also was around that retirement countdown, wasn't it?
Yeah, someone just shared this with me the other day. Well, I don't want to say the other day, about 6 months ago. I thought, I'm getting that. That's great.
Brilliant. So it's now It's now 3/4 of an hour closer to when I.
I've got to get my skates on.
Brilliant. Thank you very much, Nigel. You take care.
Thanks, Kevin. Take care. Bye-bye.
Don't forget to take a look at www.bizsmarts.co.uk to access a great range of resources to help you in your scale-up journey. So that's bizsmarts.co.uk, which is bizsmarts.co.uk.
This has been a Monkey Pants Productions podcast.